take you back in time. I don't know what you were dealing with in about February, maybe January of this year rather. When the year started off, I could not wait for 2020 to kick in. I really couldn't. I mean, I could not wait for this year to get started because I had a pipeline that was rich and full. I had projects that were stacked up. All the seeds I'd planted last year, it seemed like they were just starting to flourish, starting to take off. And what happened was the world came to almost a dead stop. Dead stop. And as we talked about before, some of you came online, the worst part of this dead stop that we ran into was this shortage of toilet paper, which caused us to go out there and just totally change the way we live life. We'd run to the store and check the shelf out and see, did it come in yet? And it was just wild, and it just changed things. And so what took place was a need for us to look at things differently. My name is Mike Lejeune, and I am the president of Lighting the Path Training and Development. I'm an authorized partner with the Jill Hickman Companies, which we do work in the leadership development and employee performance, raising employee performance. What we're going to do today is I'm going to share some information with you that really has caused the need for this to happen. You know, it's shifting to delivering engaging in virtual programs as opposed to live events, and to do so in a way where you can impact audiences in a profound way. And I'm going to share with you, as we go through this process today, lessons that we've learned over the last 7 months to shift from an in-person type of process to something that looks more like this, which is Zoom, which is interacting with people in these little bitty squares. And when this process, this shift started happening, the shift took place to go to these individual little Brady Bunch squares, I thought that it was going to become very impersonal. It was going to be distant. And here's what we've learned from research we've done, is the exact opposite has happened. What's happened is that people are distance learning from home in their own individual little sort of spaces. But what's happening is you, in this little square that you are, all right, it's almost going from a group situation with somebody being an audience to almost a one-to-one delivery with the training and the information that you are sharing. And so because of that, what we have to recognize is that we have to look at not just delivering content, we have to do a better job to emotionally engage with the people that we're connecting with. Because what we've learned in studying adult learners is that what happens, the way that they process out of mimicry, they process out of laughter, whenever you can get them to kind of lower their guard. And so our training and the way that we interact using technology today has to be more than just content delivery. And what we have to be able to do is we have to, as we interact with people, what's critical that what we do is we have to be able to interact with them and speak to the mind's eye. To be able to speak to, and this is what I refer to, the mind itself has an eyeball in it. I don't know if you know that or not, but it's how we process stuff into information. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, in the chat room, you see this word red. And in the chat room, what I want you to do is when you see this word red, what image comes into your mind? When you see the word red, what pops up here? I see apple. I love that. Mom's lipstick. That's the first. I love that one. A red ball. You got the stop sign, stop light. I love this warning, you know. Warning, Bull Robinson, warning. You got apple. It looks like that repeats on it. Here's what's interesting. I've asked that question as I've done training literally now across the United States, up into Canada, down in South Africa. And when I've asked that question, here are the four things that pop up most often. What takes place it's tomato sauce. Spaghetti sauce pops up. Yeah, it's like pops. I like this mom's lipstick though. I think that's pretty cool. I got to remember that one. The second one is red rose. That's probably the ladies are hitting that one more than the guys. But here's what the guys go to, is that Red Ryder wagon. That thing pops up most of the time, but the number one image that comes into mind is this. It's the stop sign. Now what we have to do is we have to recognize as we are interacting, as we're interacting with people, what we have to be able to do is we have to recognize as we are speaking to them and we are creating an image in the mind of the person that we're talking to. When we're doing live presentations, it's important, but when we're doing virtual presentations, it is critical for us to own that, because if we're not speaking to the mind's eye, we're not going to engage the audience. We're not going to engage that person and pull them into us. And so what I want to do is I want to show you some things that we've learned. We did 20 some odd programs in about a 6-week period of time, 2-hour blocks with a group of about 20 leaders, walking them through a process for leadership development on understanding more how they're naturally wired as a leader, doing a process of understanding about Patrick Lencioni's 5 behaviors of a team, looking at how do you build trust. And this was a software company that had high deadlines, and so we're pulling them off the floor, we're pulling these leaders in here, taking them through this program, and it was fascinating to watch the pressures that they were dealing on to hang in there with us, process the information. And so what I think the most important thing for us to look at in today's time, because of this COVID environment and a normal communication that you have with people, there's always a human side and a business side to communication. There's always a human side. And the challenge that we run into as we're trying to interact with people is that what we want to try to do is we want to try to make sure that we are navigating from the human side to the business side. Some human side business. How are people responding? What's the P&L say? What's the inventory like? What are people wrestling with as they interact with each other? And what's important is that successful organizations, successful leaders, know how to learn how to navigate from one side to the other. In today's time, in today's marketplace, what we have to be able to do today more than any other time when we're wrestling with COVID is this. We have to be able to make sure that we are starting interacting with people from a human standpoint, and we have to make sure that we end from a human perspective. It's a critical aspects of what we do. And so when we're looking at doing training, it's not a matter of information delivery. It's not just a matter of information delivery as we're doing. We're trying to engage their mind, and not only are we trying to engage their mind, I believe when I look at this Brady Bunch squares of people who are playing with us today, today, is that the people that are in this audience have a couple of things all in common. One is they have a tremendous desire to influence and impact people. That's where you're drawn to the training area. The second aspect of it is I think that what happens is that not only do you want to impact people, is that you are highly creative. You're highly creative. To be successful in training, you have to be able to think outside the box. You have to be able to think both big picture, linearly, and then you have to be able to think about how do I deliver my material in a manner that the information can manifest itself and move from thought to reality. And I think that you have to not only be creative, but the other thing that you all have in common is this, okay? Turn to this one, maybe a little bit easier for you to see. You're all heart-driven, all right? It's not just this, it's not just the mental. The people that are drawn to training, there's something about the heart that pulls you into this. And so what I want to challenge us to do is to look at some things from a creative standpoint. I was talking to one of the top trainers in the country, and he was talking about the importance of interacting with people before he goes into training with pre-work. Giving people a thing to do to be prepared. I started thinking about this and how do you impact people with pre-work? How do you impact people with pre-work and do it from a heart standpoint, from that human side? I'll show you something that I did in South Africa. I sent this picture to him. And I explained to him, I said, okay, on a Friday, as I was making phone calls, talking to clients throughout the day, I kept changing my hat. I kept changing my hat throughout the day as I was interacting with the people I was coming into contact with. Here's what I want you to do is when we come together, I want you to tell me what's the life lesson out of changing about the fact that I was having to shift my hats. And I was expecting them to show up and we have this dialogue on the importance of multitasking and about being able to realize that the marketplace of recruiters that I was talking to had to service different people, wear different hats, move different things. Let me show you what was waiting for me when the Zoom window opened up. You know, they had all shown up wearing hats because they had been talking that whole time about interacting. And we hadn't even had the lesson yet. We hadn't started impacting data. And this is an example from a pre-work standpoint, is give people something to think about, engage both the brain and the heart, get them ready, challenge them, and then make sure that when the program starts, you reach into them and you start creating dialogue, and that's where you end up with where you have interaction. It's the interactive aspect of training we don't lose whenever we're doing virtual training. Matter of fact, we have to find different ways to interact with people. We can interact with people as I am right now on a group basis. But as I'm interacting with people on a group basis, certain things I need to be able to do is to be able to also interact with people on a one-to-one basis and get them engaged. And so here's something that's kind of standard for those of us who played around with Zoom. You know, we understand and we know about the chat box, right? You know, we understand the chat box and getting people to plug things in. And some people have, played with me and typed in red, and somebody typed in lipstick and apple. But if sometimes we may want to ask people to share something that might be confidential. And one of the things we learned from a best practices standpoint is that if I wanted to have you do that right now, it would go through and I'd have you change your name by going to the rename button and change your name and simply put an asterisk where your name is. And then I'd ask you the question, allow you to participate and interact. And now you can do so and feel comfortable sharing and not worrying about somebody else on your team who might go, well, that's Elizabeth. That must be Elizabeth talking right there. Or maybe that was Bethany. Yeah, so Sarah must really be mad because look, that's probably Sarah. And so this is a way of being able to create confidentiality. So it's a way of using something that's kind of a standard thing of what we do, but creating something in a way that really encourages somebody, gives somebody permission to feel safe in interacting with you. Here's another feature that we have, which is breakout rooms. You're going, Mike, I tuned into this to hear about breakout rooms. I need to show you a brand new thing that Zoom just came up with that I'm really buzzed about. Okay, and that's looking at breakout rooms. But if you notice, there's 3 buttons that you have in place now from breakout rooms where you can assign automatically, which is just randomly let Zoom spread people out. The second is you can assign manually. And the new feature that just came out recently is that to let participants choose their own room. So in other words, what happens is you go in and you can go and set things up. Okay, excuse me, wrong way. You can go and set things up. And when you tell them how many rooms you have and allows you to rename the room, which I did is so this group, if I was going to send you into breakouts, you can say, those people who see themselves as rock stars and want to play with other rock stars, head in that direction. Those who are Oscar winners, go to that breakout room. And then the third one I corrected was politicians. That one probably wouldn't be real full today, but anyway, but it gave you the chance to be able to select. So now people can have choices going, where do I want to go and play? And then you have a chance to be, so this is something that I think we need to look at being able to shrink audiences down. Right now, we have 35 people online. If I were to ask you to interact with me with 35 people and speak, a few of you who from a disc standpoint, maybe the high D or the high I, and said, let me go, let me talk. But those who might be more the conscientiouses or the S's who are worried about being wrong may not voice themselves up. But if I shrink you down from a breakout room and divide everybody up into groups of 4 or 5, I will increase the interaction, which drives people to be willing to speak, to share, to engage. And it's a key aspect of what we're trying to do. So when you look at Zoom, and the same thing of WebEx or whatever portal that you're using from a training standpoint, what I challenge you to do is to look at how do I create what I'm dealing with and do so in a manner that I'm going to get more engagement with people as I'm delivering material. and trying to be able to impact and end up with the result that I'm after. Now, I need to share something with you because we're talking about being able to connect with somebody's heart, right? That's the direction that we're going in, connect with their heart. I had an opportunity when I first started in the speaking and training industry to spend time with a guy. His name is Giovanni Rivera. He's considered to be one of the top keynote speakers in the country, speaks to audiences of literally thousands and thousands of people. And he launched this thought process with me in this workshop that talked about audience impact moments. And so when you're looking at crafting a program, whether it's a speech or a training class, what are you doing to engage the audience member on an individual by individual basis? And you have to do something with your message and not look at a lesson plan. But what he challenged me to do, and I tried to take a picture of this, but it was too big, so I'm just going to see if I can show it to you. This is actually what I came away with, okay? This was a talk that I was about to give. It was a keynote I was about to do, okay? And you can't really see it, but hopefully what it looks like is some type of, almost like an orchestra score. It was laying things out and taking things through the highs and lows and moving people through emotionally. Let me show you an example of converting that into an outline. This was a talk that I gave about 2 years ago that followed the same concept as an outline. And if you look at the different color coding, is what I did is that if you look at where the blue highlights are, those are the places where I told stories and put stories in place. Where you see the humor came in, where the magenta. I used to call that purple. My wife says, "No, Mike, that's magenta." The magenta where highlights is where I put humor in places. I had props that I used, and so I was able to sit and look at your talk and your program and be able to figure out, how am I moving people through? Where is the emotion coming in? Where am I delivering data? And what they're showing right now is roughly about every 10 minutes, you need to shift and change and to create something that is having the audience to interact with you more. I'm going to be breaking that today, by the way, because we don't have the ability to go into Zoom rooms and send people out. And second of all is that the challenge that when they accepted this topic, I've got a lot of material that I'm going to be trying to put in place. But I did go back through and look at, where's the emotional aspect of things? Where are my stories coming into play? Where's the humor coming into play? To give you an example, the word humor. When I talk to people about using humor, my problem I have is I'm not Jerry Seinfeld. I wish I was. I wish I could go in and I could be a stand-up guy and go in there and just break everybody apart. Here's the challenge that we run into. We're not called to do that. There was a conference that I was at in Dallas, and this guy got up and he said, "Let me tell you what humor needs to look like. What humor needs to look like is this, is make them smile. Is if you can cause somebody to just shift emotionally a little bit, you're engaging the brain when you do that. Make them smile." And I want to show you some things that you can do in that space as you're developing training programs to really cause somebody to stop and pause in a virtual setting. You know, one is the use of cartoons. Is that here's a cartoon that I've used when I'm talking about bringing clarity. Here the message is, clarity brings power to training. There's something wrong with clarity here in the messaging from a training standpoint. Well, instead of saying that, if I create a visual image to be able to anchor things and to be able to anchor the message, I'm going to engage my audience member more. Here's another example you have here. I love this thing about today's technology, the battle with technology. I can talk about the fact that we're disassociated, or I can use something graphic to be able to drive the message home that I want. And the cool thing is when you drive a message home with them and then you come back and you talk to the audience, You know, you've got that message, that image that's in their mind, you've engaged the brain, and now you've got a point to the ability to be able to share whatever data, whatever information that you're trying to put forth in front of them. Now you may go, well, where do these things come from? I'll show you where they are. The first one is cartoonstock.com. I've used a couple of times. You can buy royalty-free cartoons, and you can pay for them, and they're not overly expensive. I went and looked yesterday for different ones. You know, the range is going to be 15, 18, 20 bucks. Some will be 30, 40, 50, 60 dollars, depending upon sort of the caliber of them. But it's something that you can take and embed in the training, and we need to think this way. We need to get the creativity that I think that all of you have, which has drawn you into this space, and figure out what can I do to amplify the message that I'm doing to engage the brain, that mind of the student who's in the class that we're trying to teach. Now, the second one you have on here is Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Let me check something here. Yeah. All right, Fiverr.com. What I did is I'm writing a book called Secrets for Hiring Right. And I went to Fiverr.com and I said I needed some cartoons. And I found a guy on there, okay, and this is a Mike Lejeune cartoon. Is that he made this cartoon for me that talks about it's a lot of the space that I've been playing in because I've had over 25 years in executive search. Talks about from a hiring standpoint, I need somebody who can fit this job description. Here you go. It's the unrealistic standards that sometimes our employers, our leaders set. And how do we deal with that? Here's another one that talks about the importance of reference checking and dealing with reference in today's time. I'm applying for a job, will you be my reference? That's a story all unto itself. But it's a way of being able to use cartoons in a manner to be able to make somebody, again, these things are not, I'm watching some of the faces that were brave enough to have their cameras on. Nobody fell out of their chair, rolling on the ground laughing. That's not the, well, I take it back. Thank you, I saw one do that, okay? But that's not the purpose of this. The purpose is to get people to slow down, because what you're competing with is the young lady that I was in a Zoom meeting, there was 12 of us on the line, and as I'm delivering this heartfelt message, and I'm trying to do the knockout punch to really inspire them to go and implement a new process and a new strategy, and as I'm talking to her, what happened was I started seeing this dinosaur head come up and then go back down again. And then a couple of minutes later, I saw a dinosaur head come this way and go back down again. It was her 7-year-old son that was dressed in a dinosaur costume, and he kept raising up and coming into it. And we're competing with just the environments that our people are working with. I was on a call the other day trying to order something, and the lady's taking this medicine order, and she's doing it from home, and her mother's in the kitchen yelling at her father, while the whole time her baby is screaming, and I'm trying to place an order. And it's like I'm going, I don't know how long I'm going to hang it. This is the reality that our people are dealing with as they're trying to stay productive. We need to do things to help them in this process. One of the things that we can do that's another audience impact moment, okay, is the use of quotes. There's something magical about quotes. Is that when we can take and bring a quote into our presentation, it makes things come alive. And I'll show you the quote that is one of my favorite quotes for a couple of different reasons. It's by Tom Winiger. It's the energy inside of your people where the future of your company resides. And your job as a leader is to help release that energy, to be able to turn that energy loose, and to be able to help your people become more and more productive. That's the key thing that you're after. Now, I want to point something out to you, is that if you notice with the slide that I made, is that I took the word energy and I changed the color of energy and I made it red so it would stand out and would create, by doing so, it creates a little bit of emotion in the screen, right? The thing that would help to even go more than that is if I had put a graphic behind it to be able to make it do something. We need to be able to think creatively. Now, I was in a conversation with somebody one day and says, Mike, you have all these quotes. I said, yes, I do. I have a Word doc that I collect quotes because I just love quotes. I just love quotes. And so, I mean, I've got quotes from Abraham Lincoln, I've got Maslow, I've got Pavlov, I've got the dog guy, the triangle guy, I've got Ben Franklin in there. I just love quotes. But what they said was, how come you never use one of yours? Well, I don't have any. And so I started thinking. So I said, I need to come up with something really important. Until one day, I just sat down because I was doing a training class, and what I ended up with was, this quote. It says, to really dance, you got to be willing to let go of the bar. And then I found a picture of a ballerina to be able to anchor and be able to drive this forward. And I've had more people make comments after a program that talks about, Mike, I got to let go of the bar. And so now what I've done is I've engaged both the brain and I've engaged the heart as I'm trying to interact with them. I've engaged brain as well as heart as what we're trying to do. And so what I challenge you to do is the creativity that you have is to look for places where you can take your words and to be able to chronicle them for other people. I think one of the things that we miss out on a lot is the power of story in our training. I've sat in a lot of classes where people are doing high delivery of content and I'm trying to process things. But the challenge we have is this mind's eye that I talk about, right? This mind's eye that we have, is that as you're teaching me, I am literally transposing all the information you're sharing with me, and I'm trying to apply it to something in my brain. I won a contest called the American Idol of Recruiting Trainers, because I came from the recruiting industry before I started getting into leadership development. And it was cool. 17 of us flew out to San Francisco. I was the last man standing. At the end of the day, I ended up winning a two-day training class with the guru of trainers in the recruiting space in the entire country, the #1 guy. And Danny and I were sitting in his office, and he told me something. He says, Mike, he said, you have to understand one thing. The audiences that you work with, the classes that you work with in today's time are lazy. And he said, what happens is they're asking the question, what does this mean to me? All right? But they're asking you to tell me what it means to me instead of me wrestling with it. And so what we have to do a better job of is we have to be able to transpose the information that I'm trying to deliver to that specific audience. And here's the wild part about it. Not only to that specific audience, I got to transpose it to each individual in the room based upon their situation and circumstances. And here's the beauty of story. Here's the beauty of story. Stories are like a prism. Not prison, prism. You know those crystal things? The little crystal blocks of bars that light goes into, and then the light goes in and then it refracts into all these different colors? Well, that's what happens with stories. That if I tell a story, then what's going to happen is that Robert is going to come away with a different message out of it than Michelle will. Right? Sarah's going to be moved by something differently because my story is going to remind them of something in their life and their situation and their support. And that's how we go through transposing the material that we have. It's the use of stories to drive it. And so I want to show you something. I worked with Glenna Salisbury, who's one of the top keynote speakers in the country. An amazing, amazing woman. And one of the things that she pointed out to me was from a process standpoint, is when you're delivering material, is that you deliver a point, you tell a story, all right, and then you take that story and you say, now this is how it applies to you, AP department, all right? This is how it applies to you, mom and dad. Here's how it applies to you, leader of the customer service center. And so you make a point, you make a story, and then you say, here is the application. And it's that application part of it that's critical. I think one of the things that's important for us to look at is that if you don't put the pressure on yourself to be the deliverer of the story all the time, don't be the pressure. You can ask people for examples based upon what you shared. What is that making them think about? How does it apply to them and their team? And so now you're engaging them to provide information and provide feedback, conversation, communication. You can take these breakout rooms we have if you're dealing with smaller rooms, and you can send people off into groups of 2s or 3s for them to share with each other a story of, well, how does this apply to you in your department, your situation, your circumstance? And then have them come back and pick 3 or 4 people to kind of speak for the group. It's a way of being able to engage people. And what happens is it takes this impersonal, inanimate, distance learning type of environment we think we're in, and it makes it so personal, so specific, so on target. I think that one of the things we need to look at in today's time is that in order to tell a story and create visual image, we have a great opportunity. And that opportunity that we have is using video. You can go to YouTube and pull videos down on all kind of different subjects. I had one I was going to play today, but I'm not going to because from a length of time, I've got a few more things I want to make sure we cover and leave some time for possibly for some Q&A on the end. But I want to talk to you about video and to not be afraid of using video when it comes to, in particular, Zoom, which is about 80% of our meetings that are taking place. Here's why. Is if you look at this screen, this is when you share the screen. One of the things that you want to look at when you share the screen is you want to look down here at the bottom to these 2 little buttons down at the bottom. And you want to click both of those buttons. And when you do that, it optimizes the video, all right? And it optimizes the sound to the video so that they go out of the pipe straight out, as opposed to the sound coming out of your computer going back into your microphone that you're using and being broadcast that way. The video and the audio stay the same. And so I've had great success playing video this way and having people to respond. Now, we did an experiment though, because we had some people, because of just bandwidth, they're working from home, and their bandwidths, we learned, were short. I mean, they're very small. I believe in spending an extra $20 a month or 25, whatever I'm paying, to get as big of a pipe as I can here. I got a gig plan, which means I can shoot out, I can download almost 700 Mbps or whatever they measure it, and my upload speed is like 4 to 5 times of what most people have. It only cost me an extra 25 or 30 bucks a month. It wasn't expensive. A lot of the people we have are not doing that, and their upload speed and their download speed is measured in single digits. And so sometimes video does this. Here's what we did is in the chat room, as we went in, we put a link to a video in chat. And what we said was, turn your camera off, go watch your video, hit the link, go watch the video, and when you finish, turn your camera back on, which tells us you're back in the room. And so now what happens was you send them out, and they go watch the video. 2 or 3 minutes later, you watch the windows and stuff pop back open as people start coming back in and engaging again. And when you do that, video is not a problem situation. It's not a problem situation. So I encourage you to look at this, to think of different ways that you can engage that. I can mentally picture this mind's eye that sits here when I'm delivering material. How can I speak to that eye to connect the eye, connecting the eye to the heart? That's what you're trying to make happen. Now, one of the best ways to connect the eye to the heart is this, all right? Oh, hang on a second. All right, I love Charlie Brown. I just love Charlie Brown. Lucy says, so what do you think? What difference does it make, Lucy? You never listen anyway. And Lucy says, I was just making conversations. That when you have a conversation, you have to listen to. And Lucy's response, of course, is you do. The key word in here is listen. And what happens is, as trainers, I know for myself personally, when I'm trying to deliver, I am trying to deliver what's in my head right now. I wish we had a longer time that I could create a more interaction coming in the other direction. But this is one of my favorite subjects to be able to work with people on, to help them be able to understand and embrace this. When we're teaching and training, we create opportunities. We create opportunities to come in and be able to specifically talk to people and have them speak back to us. That's the best way. When somebody feels understood, they feel of value. When they feel understood, they feel of value. And I can't emphasize enough in today's time, as we run these the meetings we're in, these training programs that we're in, is that when we're managing going from one side to the other, one side to the other. We're delivering data, we're delivering technical, we're delivering tactic, we're delivering technique. And then we're hitting the human side. We're going from one side to the other, and we're intentional about it. We're intentional about it. It's a key aspect of it. Now, here's what I think is important for us to look at, is that don't hide behind PowerPoint. Don't hide behind PowerPoint. And what I mean behind that is that most programs, we have a PowerPoint deck, and that we have a little block off to the side. I think that we need to get skilled enough to be able to turn our PowerPoint deck on, share our screen, and then stop sharing our screen so we can talk into the camera. Because this is a bigger voice. It's a bigger image than that little bitty square that's just off to the side. I've got a friend of mine, I teach a Bible study, and he says, Mike, I really don't even look at your screen. I'm just listening to you speak. Because I have a lot of text and stuff because I'm looking at scripture and different things. But if I wanted to get his attention, as soon as I turn the text off and I start speaking into it or whatever, he told me, he says, my head snapped, what's Mike saying now? And it's a way of being able to add some variety to things. I want to show you, some of you may be going, Mike, are you sharing your screen? Are you going back and forth that way? The answer is no. I'm using something called a Blackmagic ATM Mini Switcher. And so what the switcher is, it's got the ability for me to have 4 camera inputs into it. And I have my iPad hooked into one, which I'm running my PowerPoint off of. And so when I want to go to my PowerPoint, this is my PowerPoint deck. That's a picture of my switcher. And I've got these 4 buttons across the bottom that I can go from camera to camera. The one that's lit up on the left is the one that shows my camera feed, my main camera feed. I also have the ability to have my picture-in-picture sitting up here and doing what I want. And it's a pretty cool device. I'm not a commission guy. I'm not selling the switcher. I will tell you, if you choose to go and look into this device, send me an email. I'll show you, what to look for. It took me a while to figure out how to get the sound and the audio and the video and all the settings together. But for me, it's helped out tremendously, tremendously. But my point behind this is you don't have to have a switcher to do what I'm doing. You share your screen, you make your point, but then occasionally you stop sharing your screen and you come back in and you talk to be able to create the image you're dealing with. The other thing though is if you're going to use PowerPoint, I think it's important for us to look at, you need to look at for royalty-free imaging, all the graphics and pictures that you have are all royalty-free that I've either gotten free and not paid for or paid like $2. And you'll see that there's different places, Adobe stock, Shutterstock, Pixabay is where I picked up some stuff last night. Those were free. iStock is another place to use it. And my favorite one that I use most of the time is 123RF, which stands for royalty free. I like the graphics that are able to pull out. The average cost is about $2 an image that I use. So they're very inexpensive. And what happens is it makes graphics come to life. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Is that show you some imaging that I've Unsplash rather is another one that somebody referred to me just recently. That's an example of using transitions and animation to be able to add a little bit more juice to what you're doing. That's a whole class into itself, but I like doing that. This is an example of me talking about the difference between contact versus connect. And instead of just having those words on a screen, the impact and the power that you've got to make in this image come alive by using graphics. Here's another example that I have that is literally done with PowerPoint. The PowerPoint. Now, here's the cool thing about it. With PowerPoint, I'd like to tell you I built this, but I didn't. But there is an opportunity for you to be able to go and look at Fiverr.com, Fiverr, Fiverr.com. I've gotten a lot of my graphics work built by going online and finding people to be able to do that. The same guys, the place where I found those cartoons, they have these amazing graphics people who are able to build PowerPoint decks for you. As I draw to a close on this thing, I want to talk to you about something that's real important for me because it's something that I believe in real strongly. It's the use of props as we speak. Because what happens when we use props, it does something. It does something, engages the brain. I don't think we should be afraid of it. You notice I've been using this heart, okay? So instead of saying the word heart, as soon as I lift this thing up, I'm now speaking in a graphic way. I'm now impacting with you. Give you an example. I talk about Stephen Covey's principles of emotional deposits, and I can talk to you about emotional deposits. But the cool thing is that what happens is if I talk about the fact that, what happens is we interact with the people we work with, we put emotional deposits in, okay? As we interact with them, we're building trust, we're building loyalty, and our actions can come in here, and hopefully we're creating all these emotional deposits. But the beauty of it, of using a prop, is I can say, sometimes, every now and then, when I run late to a meeting, the message that I send to my team is, I'm taking a withdrawal and I'm taking emotional deposits out. Whenever I don't meet a deadline, I'm taking emotional deposits out. And so the question I have for you is, are you putting in? Are you taking out? Now that's a better way from a delivery standpoint. And what happens is with this small square that we have, it just gives us the ability to be able to do some things. This is my magic dust bag. People always ask me questions, said, what do I say? How do I do? It's like, Mike, you have some magic dust? And I go, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I got a magic dust bag right here. I carry it around with me everywhere I go. But good news, I got a bag. The bad news is the bag is empty. I got none. But let me tell you the basics and foundations that if you do these standards, what happens is the basic foundational aspects of human interaction, you'll fill up your own magic dust bag. It's a way of being able to drive and to be able to connect head and to be able to connect heart. This journey that we've been on has been trying to figure out how do I deliver data and information, but do it in a manner that opens up a person's mind, opens up their ears, and opens up their heart. And I couldn't wait to do this program with y'all because I knew the audience. I knew I was going to be speaking to people who are highly creative, who are unbelievably passionate about serving others and about getting better and finding ways of raising our standards. You have an opportunity right now to stand out, to not be a voice over a PowerPoint deck. It's needed right now because there's a thing that's happening in our country, matter of fact, not just our country, across the globe, and the word is reset. That's what pandemic has happened. People are analyzing, what is my situation and circumstance? As an employee, am I happy where I'm at? Do I want to be doing this? 40% of the people polled have said they are very disappointed with how their companies have handled this whole pandemic situation. And the fear of that is before this happened, 70% of the people that Gallup had polled felt a sense of disengagement. And people right now are looking to grow. They're looking to rethink their situation. They are hungry for circumstances. The very first webinar that I did when the pandemic hit, it said, the sky is falling, now what? And usually on a webinar, you end up with about a 50, 60, 65% show rate registration. We had a 98% show rate of people who registered that showed up for the program. And the reason for that is because people are trying to find answers. The cool thing is in the walk that you're on right now is that you specifically have taken on the task and the charge of charting a course to say, hey, follow me. Let me show you, if you do this, and whatever you're training, whatever you're teaching, whatever you're developing, you're out in the lead. And there's never been a more important time for us to be in the roles that we're in. Again, my name is Mike Lejeune. I'd love to have your help. The space I play in is power of engagement. It's crafting a vision, cultivating culture, conquering the hiring process, capturing clarity, creating action-oriented programs, calibrating numbers. As an authorized partner of the Jill Hickman Companies, we do programs on leadership development, customer service. If you know somebody that you feel needs to hear our message, send me an email or share the information either way. My email information, I put this slide in there. I also do a podcast called Leadership Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. I do C-suite interviews. As a matter of fact, my next one is Jamie Root, the president of Houston Texans, who has a new book coming out on November 10th. I'm interviewing him Monday, and we're going to be releasing that probably Tuesday or Wednesday of the week it comes out. My company's Lighting the Path. That's also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd be honored to share my network with yours, to connect with you in a way that might be meaningful.